Welcome to the Tune podcast, where we break down e-commerce strategies and tips to give you advice on how to scale traffic and conversions. Today, I have no other than the PR magician, Chris Pantelli, where we're going to rip his mind apart and hopefully get some really good advice on how you can use PR with your e-commerce brand. So welcome, Chris.
Thank you very much for having me. Go easy on me. Don't rip me apart too hard.
I'm sure the audience won't want that. But yeah, obviously, I know your backstory. We spoke before, but, who are you? And, what do you do with PR?
So yeah, my name's Chris Pantelli, co-founder of Linkify. We're a digital PR link building agency. We've been in business now for coming up half a decade, and our core focus is earning clients tier one editorially earned media coverage. And we've seen the industry change significantly from when I first started. It was just, you would literally be handwriting pitches to journalists. Harrow was in its sort of heyday, I suppose. Lots of opportunities, probably not as competitive, but yeah, it was a lot of graft. And then we've seen the onset of AI, the journalism industry change, and then the significance of what these links and coverage actually mean has changed quite a lot as well.
Absolutely. Thanks for sharing that. So with e-commerce, PR's always been PR, hasn't it? Have you seen a growth with e-commerce brands wanting PR over the last couple of years? Obviously, I know it's become more and more relevant. When we look at PR, so it almost looks like a billboard of marketing, didn't it? If you look back a few years ago, but now like it's important more than ever. So has there been a demand for e-commerce brands reaching out to you and do you see that growing?
Yeah, definitely. As we've seen Google update after Google update, and then the prevalence and growth of large language models, we've seen a steady rise in e-commerce clients looking to ride the wave of digital PR. I think there's always been a need for PR for e-commerce brands, especially when it comes to product PR, but that's a hard game to play because getting your products covered by the media, unless it's super newsworthy, is really, really difficult. And you're after one thing, and that is promotion for a product, which is sort of goes against journalism in its truest form. Obviously, there are certain agencies that specialize in that, and you can do really well with it. There's lots of places you can go. But for us, it's about more having an alignment of skills and expertise of the e-commerce owner or founder, how that relates to the products as a whole that they sell and what category they fit in, and then building coverage to build the authority of the brand. So I think there is a real opportunity that perhaps has been overlooked for a number of years with e-commerce brands. And obviously we've done some work together for your brand, and you see that it's not product, but it definitely drives authority.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's a great point. It's, personal brand is definitely like the buzz topic over the last, 12, 24 months. But a real personal brand and a founder-led strategy is a great way to highlight that brand and the product. And obviously, we've done it, and you've got me in like entrepreneur, and you've got some, incredible links, and, to do that for founders is still definitely a big hole in the market. It seems like more, we see like Zuckerberg doing it for Facebook, where he come out with this new fresh look and he had the white tee, curly hair. But real founders are doing that now. So no, it's an interesting topic. So do you find that more founders are reaching out for that? Could you explain, product, like I said, products is hard. Products, getting general products, mentioning the PR is hard. Do you see more founders are open to building a personal brand and adapting to that strategy?
No, I would say in e-com, they are less likely. I don't know if that's perhaps historically where like successful e-commerce businesses have come from. It's been a lot of behind the scenes work and not founder led.
Yeah.
Maybe people that did well in the affiliate space then moved into e-commerce, and it's very much introverted space. So no, they are much more reluctant, and you don't always have that good fit of niche relevancy to the expert or the founder and the general products that they're selling. So that's less common, but there's loads of strategies that you can employ in order to like bridge that gap. And I find that if you get on a prospective sales call with an e-commerce brand that let's say is founder led and they're in the health space, but the founder has no discernible health credentials whatsoever. They just own a really successful health based e-commerce business. Then when you start to explain to them, if you could put someone front and center, doesn't have to be a founder, just, an expert representative of your brand that has the broader health credentials to be talking about the product and what you do, then that not only perfectly bridges that gap between your business and engaging the media, you're building the EAT, the trust signals, and all of the stuff that snowballs from there.
Yeah, absolutely. You're tapping into a whole other audience, aren't you, and building that connection. You look at George Heaton, representing, like, he does it really well, where he's built such a huge audience around the core, like fitness and what he does represent with the 247s. No, it's really interesting. It's like, let's say, it's a huge hole in the market, and something that, founders definitely need to be tapping into. Interesting. Big question for you. A brand can be spending $60K a month on ads and won't spend $0 on PR. Why?
I think ads it's a numbers play. You can see what your ad spend is. You can easily track the conversions from your ad spend. I know it's getting like sort of prohibitively expensive, but if you can be ROI positive on ad spend, then it seems like a no-brainer. They're used to it. Lots of things like that. As you know, SEO is a long-term play, and building brand is an even sort of more conceptual idea of like build a brand and your business will do better. But it's really hard to like demonstrably show that to the decision makers and the people with the credit cards. So yeah, it's tricky, but I mean, you're posting a lot of stuff currently about LLMs, and I mean, the safest bet to assume with like being present in LLMs is being a brand and a recognizable brand, no matter what the sort of short-term tricks are currently. Like, I think it's a safe bet that the brands will be the ones that survive and thrive in the LLM landscape. So yeah, I don't know. It's tricky, man. It's hard to say like, okay, take 10K from that K a month, put it into sort of digital PR and building a brand presence, and in 12 months time, there are things you can track like branded search and direct traffic, but it's so multi beneficial that it's hard to really nail it down. So I think that would probably be the likely cause. But I think as we sort of become more ingrained in LLM visibility, and also how like good marketing, brand building is going to positively impact both your SEO and your LLMO, then I think more and more e-commerce brands will like wise up to the idea.
Yeah, absolutely. It's almost an education piece, isn't it? Where brands, it used to be, okay, customers go to Google, they search, and then they get retargeted with paid, or they initially land on a paid ad, and then they research the brand. And there's this whole other multi-dimensional search now where, people go into LLMs. I had a client who recently asked me, he said a customer messaged him and said he compared products in GPT and they wasn't mentioned. And he was questioning, should he buy their product because they wasn't mentioned? And he asked me why. And it's a really good question. Obviously, Google's still the whale with organic, but as AI becomes more relevant, LLMs become more popular, and people start to change how they search. It's important that we're showing up on the different channels. Classic marketing is just multi-touch points, isn't it? And if we're missing them points in LLMs, and you're not going to be found, and you're going to lose the opportunity to acquire a customer and convert that customer. So PR is that support, isn't it? And it's almost a new education piece now to make sure brands understand that, because I feel like they don't. And I said PR is a great way to get featured in LLMs and influence what LLMs are seeing about brands and products.
Yeah, that's a really good point. A really good point is that narrative control as well. Like, we almost want to have a say in our own destiny, and we want to position our brands the way that we want to be seen. And the more places that we can say who we are, what we do, who's behind it, and the more that information is repeated across multiple platforms, then the more chance you have of being, trusted by, like you said, the traditional see a paid ad, Google it, then maybe check in an LLM. Like, if the same stuff is matching everywhere, it's more trust. It's more likely that customer is going to convert, and it's another touch point for if they're going to convert further down the funnel.
Absolutely. GPT launching, checkout with Shopify, what it looks like. So if they're searching, best trainers for long distance running, and that brand's not searching, they can check out, ideally there. Again, they're losing that opportunity, aren't they? So over the last 2-3 years, would you say PR has changed in terms of how you approach it for an e-commerce brand? Looking at LLM, obviously, I know we mentioned then the founder-led approach. Is there any way you sort of change your approach on how you approach PR? Yeah,
I think it's become much more important to have the skills and credentials that match the broader topicality of the niche that the e-commerce is operating in. So 5, 6, 7 years ago, you could just have, let's say, the owner of the business who had no discernible, relatable niche skills to the products that were being sold, and just sort of pitch general business queries, maybe some like broad finance queries, but that just doesn't really exist anymore. Like a journalist that's writing about a financial topic, they want to quote a CFO or a CPA or, an actual finance expert. Same with, maybe a few years ago, we could have been pitching as you, Louis, for your brand, but obviously we didn't take that approach. We took the guy that's actual perfumist, and it makes sense for the brand. So I think that's a real distinction, and it's become harder because people don't necessarily have those people on team. Like you could run a wildly successful e-commerce business, and you're just great marketers, got great product people, but you don't have like the relatable skill or credentials. So as it's become so easy to produce content as well, like journalists, they want to be able to quote experts that reflect and bolster the credibility of the article that they're working on.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a great point. It keeps going back to that founder, doesn't it? And almost not trying to hack it, but show what the founder's sort of skill and expertise, and then echoing that, through the internet. Interesting point. So would you say have a misconception of what PR is, like still thinking it's almost like billboard marketing, where say you get a couple of links on a website and that's it, as opposed to like how powerful it can be nowadays?
Yeah, but I think because with digital PR, you have that SEO focus of the link. When it comes to traditional PR, that's when you can really take it to the next level for the founder and really like build trust to that central founder figure. And you can do that. You can start that with digital PR, where the link on the tier 1 publication is the sole goal. But once you've got that, you can start developing relationships with journalists, and then you can start trying to like podcasts or speaking events. So it can be a great stepping stone. But also you have that crossover where digital PR was like, okay, let's try and get a link on this great publication. When it comes to sort of the way journalists quote, it's almost always sort of homepage branded anchor text. It's going to name your expert, homepage branded anchor text to the website, which was the business name, and then sort of maybe what the business does. So you're actually getting like double bubble, because that's a branded mention, which we know is a significant ranking factor in the LLMs. So it almost became this like perfect storm where it was killing two birds with one stone. Like if you can get your experts quoted in a real publication, so not a paid guest post, not some dodgy PBN link with exact max answer text to your money page, which wouldn't make any sense in the wild. Like it's clearly a paid link. Doing this activity is getting twofold. So I think it's really, really, really impactful. Not to mention that you're potentially getting in front of, your ICPs. You're going to get some referral traffic. You can then be syndicated across other publications, get in front of new audiences. Like there's so much. You can repurpose that content. You can send that place that you've been featured to your newsletter. There's just so much that you can do from it. It's like so worth the effort, or at least as to go back to what you said earlier, at least just a small part of that K which you're spending on ads every month, at least just a little bit.
No, it really is a power strategy. No, when you dig into that, it's a power strategy, and definitely, like, obviously you worked with our brand, and the links you built, like, and you mentioned then about like PBN and just random pages, orphan pages on the internet, sort of just collecting dust, and like the links you built, like, will start ranking for relevant terms, and then PR links are picking up, links as well. When you think what PBN is, like, these are just organic, like, natural power pages, picking up power page links, they're ranking for all the relevant terms. So you can imagine what that's pushing to your brand. And again, it's almost, I think founders don't really understand that what's going on in the background and the opportunity of that for helping the, brand rank. Again, I think we need to echo this, don't we? And show founders, because I'm a big believer in what it does, and obviously I've seen what it does. If you got a founder, say a 7-figure e-commerce brand owner, I said, Chris, man, I'm interested in PR. How would they get ready? How would they get PR ready?
Yeah, that's a really good question. It's tricky to outline any one thing, because I would say e-commerce founders are probably like the least well optimized for this, both in terms of their actual site and broader web visibility and all that goes with that. And then also in mindset as well. So to start with mindset, what it is that you're trying to achieve. So we want to get really, really, really high authority sites mentioning us with a backlink. The backlink is for us is the billable part, but even the unlinked branded mention is a powerful thing to achieve. Now, what we can't do is be hyper relevant. And actually we did a podcast with Carl Kango the other day, and we were talking about this when it comes to relevancy. And there is a time and a place for relevancy. And obviously we know an inner page exact match anchor text link to money page is likely going to work, at least for a short period of time. But when it comes to that homepage link juice, that authority building domain link juice, it's difficult to achieve pure relevancy, because it's unlikely that it's going to be of editorial interest to these massive publications to specifically be talking about, you know, a product of yours or a very niche area that you're selling your products. Whereas in a much broader sense, you know, if you're selling supplements, then that hugely broad health space is relevant to the journalist, especially if you've got a health expert. So you might be selling supplements to, I don't know, encourage muscle growth, but you could legitimately, if you've got a medical expert, talk about a whole array of health related things that in a very true sense has got nothing to do with supplements and what you're selling, but in the broader sense is about health. And if that allows you to get coverage on Healthline, where it's quoting your founder, the name of your business, what your business does, and then gives some expert commentary on, I don't know, protecting your skin during the summer months. Yeah. Okay, not hyper relevant to your exact product offering, but wow, that's a Healthline link that's mentioning you and your brand. Like that's huge. So understanding that it's a different activity. If you're doing paid link building, guest posts, you know, if you're doing that, then that's not this. We are trying to get publications where you can't buy links to link to your homepage as an e-commerce store. So that in of itself is a hard ask anyway. And the way that we do that is we have to accept less relevancy in terms of, you know, the article or the topicality of the quotes that we're giving. But as long as it broadly matches, then that totally makes sense and it's definitely worth the activity. So that's the one thing, the mindset. And then the other thing would be actually being sort of forward facing ready for this activity. So have you got somebody that broadly matches the niche that you're in that you can have front and center representing your business? So if you are selling perfume brand, do you only have a founder who has got nothing to do with perfume? He's a marketing expert. You've got an SEO manager, a human resources person. Like if you haven't got anyone to do with perfume, then you probably want to find someone that you can have being a public spokesperson for your company that knows what they're talking about when it comes to perfumery and scents and beauty and, you know, the much broader topic. Once you've got that, then make sure that you've got that visible connection. And this just goes into like EEAT as well. Like if you're selling perfume as a perfume brand, I know somebody clicks on your about page, they don't want to see SEO manager, finance guy, seven-figure exit founder. They want to know if you guys know what you're talking about when it comes to perfume, or at least there's someone on the team knows what they're talking about when it comes to perfume. So have that person there, and then make sure that they've got like wide web visibility as well. Make sure that you've got a company LinkedIn page, you've got individual staff LinkedIn profiles where the company is connected to the LinkedIn. These are things that journalists will check if you are going to be pitching the media. So they're not going to do a CIA level investigation into you and your company, but if they pitch you, they're going to want to click on the website and see, is there like an about section? Like, if it takes me more than 3 clicks, then they'll just move on to the, 100 other pitches that they've had until they find that person who's like, okay, this guy's a perfumist, or I don't even know, is that the correct word for someone who makes perfume? Perfumist?
Perfumologist, yeah.
Perfumologist.
Yeah. I come out with a few names.
So don't make your about section 8 clicks deep navigationally, like front and center, wider web visibility across social platforms, and then scream from the rooftops about your awards, accolades, achievements as well. Like if you've been certified, if you've got license numbers, which allows you to do X, Y, and Z, like many e-commerce products operate in regulated industries, or at least there's some form of regulatory body. There's so many things that you can just quite easily include in a really simple about section that just really, really enhances the trust signals, not just to Google or the large language models, but also to the actual human customers that hit the site. Those two things combined is like 90% of the work. you do all of that and you pitch a journalist a good pitch, then you've got a real good chance of them wanting to include you in their article, and you get a big ass juicy link.
Strategy broken down. Tip.
Yeah.
You made some killer points there, and it's, I work with brands doing organic search, and I'll often question that. I'll say, like, whose name are we putting on these articles? And nobody really is like, yeah, I know who left. I'm like, why? I sort of struggle because I create content, I'm a founder as well, the world brand. So I'm like, who wants to stand up for the brand? Like who are we putting forward to the world to say, I'm this expert? And there'll be experts who, for example, in the gardening niche, and they've got so much authority, they've been mentioned, but they just don't want to put the name to it. And they miss that real world opportunity of social proof and building the opportunity, like LLMs or people, journalists coming to the page and saying, who is this brand? Another brand I work with, they've had features with like Taylor Swift, and it's just a little mention somewhere on a random blog. And I'm like, why are you not shouting about this? Why are you not building that credibility to the world?
Yeah. And brands can leverage and borrow that. And we see it all the time. Like there's a Burger King advert currently for a new burger they bought out. They haven't got their VP of European growth strategy talking about the new burger on this radio ad. They've got Gordon Ramsay talking about it because Gordon Ramsay's a chef. So they're borrowing somebody who makes sense to borrow to have as a spokesperson for their products. That's why I think maybe it's difficult sometimes for founders or owners to feel like that's okay to do, but like the big dogs are doing it, so it's more than okay.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. Gordon Ramsay shouts about new burger headline.
Yeah,
no brainer. So I'm always conscious of the resources brands have. So any brand I work with, like I'll say, where we're spending, I'm doing organic, but what we're spending on ads, what we're spending on email, and try and understand. Would you say the right time for a brand to look at PR, or should, say a low 7-figure brand that's not got loads of resource, would you say, because on your website you do plan, which is awesome, don't you, where they can put in month on month and buy a plan rather than just paying in one hit. Would you say, advise them to sort of like find that resource and put into PR, because we can see the opportunity it brings, and we can definitely see, where LLMs are going, large language models, that's when they're going to grow and grow. So would you advise a company to say, actually, put into it, or is there other sort of areas you think they should invest into first? I'm always, because there's never the right time is to spend money on a channel. There's always going to be a question between, the founders, CMO, whoever. So would you advise against it, or would you always say, try and find that resource?
Yeah, I think I would start with sort of looking at organic and looking at competitors. That's the easiest place to start, because you can see if there's a gap. And really, if they're producing great content and they've got good technicals on site, if they're happy with all that, or at least they're not planning, or they don't think there's any real way for them to improve content and technicals, and they've got a competitor or a couple of competitors that are outranking them on some really important money keywords, then I would see because really ultimately links is the only differentiator at that point. Then I would see are these brands, do they have more of these tier 1 links than us? Do they have more homepage authority and a better distribution of that link equity from the homepage filtering out through to their keywords? If they have, which is often the case, then I think it would be a great place to start, because you can at least make an assessment that, 10 or 20 really high authority links is potentially going to have a big impact on pages that you have in spot 5 that you want to be in spot 2 or 3, if that's the only differentiator. Then you've also got the added benefit that you'll get the additional benefits of that activity that outside of what you've just planned for. So, being featured in these great places, you can have your press badge on your homepage. This is where we've been featured. That's what I call the Shark Tank effect. So Shark Tank, for me and you, Louis, it's Dragon's Den, but in America they have Shark Tank. If you've ever seen a Shark Tank product and you go on that product homepage after a Shark Tank episode, they say, as featured in Shark Tank. So telling you where they've been featured. That can, increase your conversion rates on site, increase your trust signals if you get inspected by a human Google quality rater. So there's so many benefits to it. And then I think people as well are becoming maybe more disillusioned with paid ads. There's still a boatload of organic traffic out there. I mean, I know the narrative currently is, Google's dying, everybody's searching on LLMs. Like, Google that is actually growing. There's still so much to have from it. And when it comes to digital PR, if you're going to spend 100K on some like guest posts, which Google could devalue overnight, or, if Google does lose market share over the coming years, that 100 grand today might become worth a lot less in a few months or a few years from now. Whereas if you've engaged for digital PR coverage and tier one mentions, then that's real marketing and that should last a lifetime. So risks and rewards, budget, this, like you said, it's an education piece. It's the way how the founders feeling, what they're like, what they're comfortable with doing. But I think the benefits outweigh the risks when it comes to like real brand building marketing.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's fair to say, isn't it, that investing into tier one PR links is getting articles and mentions that stick. So if 10,000 new potential customers go to Google and they search your brand, we can see brands that don't have articles about them and publication mentions, and ones that are just drowning in like positive sentiment about the brand, the products. And they're obviously the ones that have been investing into tier one publication building. And I think it's fair to say as well, if you invest into PR every 24 months, for 24 months, and we invest, every few months and keep that investment ongoing and keep them PR links dripping in, like it's going to lead to growth, isn't it? That relevance, page relevance, brand relevance, seed sites being websites that Google leans on and trust. For example, Healthline in the medic niche, we're building these authority links, and it's only going to lead to growth and growth that sticks, rather than brands trying to invest into, say, PBNs or, like, say, guest posts that collect dust and can disappear overnight. You invest 30K, which I've seen brands do in 12 months, and then that just goes down the drain, rather than building real publications and PR links that are going to stick. I think it's fair to say that, isn't it?
Yeah, I would agree. Like to your point earlier, paying for a link or something on like an orphan page that's never going to get seen. I'm not saying that all digital PR links are on pages that are like going to explode, but the publications that we're trying to win this coverage from, they have a vested interest in the visibility of the content they're producing. Like that's their business. They don't, Men's Health isn't producing an article and quoting experts and commissioning the journalist or the writer to produce this piece of content so that it's buried 8 categories, 8 levels deep on some weird blog. It's Men's Health. It's millions of monthly organic traffics to the website. And they're producing this content to be seen. They'll also promote it on their socials. The journalists will often promote the articles. Like you said, PR links stick. It's almost like anti-editorial for a piece of content to have been published by a journalist to then be just removed because it's sort of anti-journalistic. And then you have the chance that as well, you said maybe over like a 12 or 24 month period, this can lead to actual visibility to people that may then have seen the brand and then want to speak to the owner. Maybe another journalist has seen it and there's an interesting story. It can lead to so many other opportunities, which is why I think it's really a really great thing to be involved with, because the potential benefits are just far above and beyond that of just like the inherent algorithmic SEO value of the link, but all of the other things that can come from it.
Absolutely. Yeah, when you got me that link in Entrepreneur and I shared on LinkedIn, and, I got a lot of love from inboxes, and it builds that credibility, isn't it? So you can imagine what it's doing in search engines for brands. Awesome. PR, I think a lot of brands don't understand how they get started. If you have to summarize to get started, is it literally reach out to Chris, look at his brand Linkify, you'll take them through an easy process?
Yeah, like I said, get yourself PR ready. If you want to reach out to us, we can. It's not rocket science. Normally you can do this. I've had people on a sales call who I've said, you need to do X, Y, and Z. They've emailed back later on this afternoon. They've done it. They've gone from like me thinking, God, to, okay, this is great. And that's like simple things, LinkedIn tweaks, about page optimizations, not being embarrassed to like actually tell the world all of the awesome things that you've done and achieved. I know as humans, we can often be quite like withheld in wanting to, actually not me, I'm quite showy offy, but many people, like they don't want to say about all these awesome things that they've done. So, you shouldn't be embarrassed to do that. You can do it in a very professional and nice way. And then, not every brand I would say is ideally suited to PR. That is another thing to be upfront and honest about. I hate having to turn away any potential client, but if you're in the gun and ammo space doesn't resonate that well with journalists. Porn, unfortunately, as much as I would love to, actually
Really?
having said that, actually having said that, I mean, sort of sexual health and relationships, so can do really, really well, because obviously that's a very PR friendly topic. It's talked about a lot. So you can position more difficult spaces in a clever way. CBD and sort of cannabis on the sort of health and mental health side. Yeah, sexual relationships, dating, that sort of thing from a sort of, therapeutic and psychiatric sort of angle can do really well. But some niches aren't a great fit, but a lot are. And it's just having that flexibility to present your brand in a way that you almost put the broader niche that it's in and the expertise and authority behind that, so that it positions you correctly in that space.
So for a summary, why should they do PR?
Because it's probably going to be the best thing that you did when you look back in whatever the search landscape. I hate that word. That's just an AI word. But what other word can I use? What the search arena looks like in 3 or 5 years. Like, I think digital PR is the first stepping stone to building a brand. And then anything that you do on top of that, if you are more of a brand in 12 months than you are now, then you made the right decision, and just keep growing that. Build the.
Incredible. Yeah, I agree with you, Chris. And it's, you build their external pages as what they are now, because they're shaping how LLMs, you're influencing LLMs and what they say about your brand. So you're basically using PR to control LLMs. So see it as your secret weapon. But thanks for coming in today, Chris. I hope everyone found value in PR. It surely jigged my cogs in how powerful it is. And I recommend it, to every brand to just invest in PR and shape that conversation, what the internet's saying about them.
Really good point. Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Louis.
Awesome. Let's do it again soon.
Cheers, man.